Princess Daena was perhaps the most infamous of the sisters of King Baelor the Blessed. Thanks to the actions of her son, Daemon Blackfyre, the king had two other sisters who each played their own role in the history of Westeros. Princess Rhaena was almost as pious and religious as King Baelor, and in time, like her brother, joined the faith and became a scepter. Born in 147 AC, she was 2 years younger than Daena. Rhaena was said to be just as lovely as her sister, but hers was a softer, sweeter, more feminine beauty. Though she was not plump, her body was more rounded than Daena's. Rhaena's hair was more gold than silver, and was always carefully coiffed and combed. She had soft, kind eyes, and a shy, sweet smile. It is said that out of the three sisters of Baelor, who were placed in the Maidenvault, Rhaena resisted the least. Given that, in personality she differed from her older sister, where Daena was willful, wild, and adventurous. Rhaena was dutiful, meek, and passive, for the most part, thus why it was not a surprise to anyone when she chose to join the faith. She loved to dress in white and gold, and was very fond of lace trim on her sleeves and bodices. She loved to sew and do needlework, and often was seen embroidering religious scenes on her own clothing. This was in stark contrast to her younger sister. Princess Elaena was the youngest of the three sisters. She was much more willful than Rhaena, but not quite as beautiful as either of her sisters. Born in 150 AC, at the age of 11, she was described as a skinny little thing, awkward and angular, shy and charming by turns. However, her beauty matured as she grew older, with her eyes a soft lilac, her mouth thin-lipped and often angry. Her hair was perhaps her feature which stood out the most. It was platinum white, with a bright golden streak down the middle, an unusual colour even for the children of House Targaryen. She always wore it long, pulled back and braided, and was always being told it was her crowning beauty. However, she cut off her braid to defy her brother Baelor for imprisoning her in the Maidenvault. Then on, she wore her hair short for years. As a child, Elaena liked to dress in black, simply because her older sister Daena also dressed in black. In character, she had more than a little of Daena's willfulness, as she would prove when she grew older. Elaena was also shrewd and intelligent, especially with money. When she was placed in the Maidenvault, and after she had cut her long platinum hair with the golden streak running through it, it is said she sent it to her brother, pleading for her freedom, with a promise that she swore she would be too ugly to tempt any man now. Of course, her pleas fell on the deaf ears of her zealous brother, whose obsession with the faith had begun to consume him. There was never any chance he would have relented and allowed the freedom of his sisters, despite their pleas and promises to remain faithful. Like the rest of her sisters, once King Baelor died in 171 AC, after being found collapsed at an altar, conducting yet another fast for the apparent sins of his sister Daena. All three of the king's sisters were freed from the Maidenvault by their uncle, King Viserys II. Once free from the Maidenvault, Elaena would go on to live a tumultuous life, but she would ultimately outlive all of her siblings, dying at some point after 220 AC. She in the end followed her elder sister Daena's footsteps, when in the period between 171 and 176 AC, she bore bastard twins, a boy and a girl she named John and Jane Waters. Their father turned out to be none other than Lord Alan Velaryon the Oakenfist. This caused much scandal and tension at court, as it must be remembered that at this time Alan was still married to Baelor Targaryen, the half-sister of the late King Aegon III, and cousin to Elaena's mother, Danea. While we know little of the particulars of their relationship and how it came to be, it was said that Alan had been in love with Elaena for some time. It is believed that Elaena hoped to one day marry Alan, but a year after his disappearance at sea during his final voyage, she gave up hope and accepted he was lost and agreed to marry elsewhere. Due to gaps in court records, it is unknown whether Lord Alan ever knew about his bastards, or whether the children were born after he left on his final voyage, from which he never returned. Ultimately, the true-born son of John Waters became a great knight, going on to form House Longwaters, whose line still exists into the Baratheon era of Westeros, with his descendant, Rhaena Longwaters, the current chief underjailer in the Red Keep's Black Cells. Given House Longwaters' descent from two parents with a long line of Valyrian ancestry, the members of House Longwaters bear the traditional Valyrian look. Elaena, in the end, was thrice wed. Her first marriage in 176 AC was to a wealthy but aged asoiaf Plum, who is said to have died while consummating the marriage. Nevertheless, she conceived a child during that singular occasion. There are later scandalous rumours, whose sources are not known, that came to suggest that Lord Plum in fact died at the sight of his new bride in her nakedness, and that the child conceived that night was by her cousin Aegon, he who later became King Aegon the Unworthy. However, many argue that while Aegon had a clear reputation for fathering bastards, even on his own cousins, there is no real proof to suggest that that was the case with Elaena. Even so, Viserys Plum was born in 176 AC and would go on to become Lord when he came of age. A descendant of Viserys Plum crossed the Narrow Sea and became the ancestor of Brown Ben Plum. Elena's second marriage was at the behest of Aegon the Unworthy's successor, King Daemon the Good. Daemon wed her to his master of coin, Ronald Penrose, and the union led to 4 more children, Robin, Laena, Jocelyn, and Joy Penrose. It is said that during this time, given Elena's skill with numbers, that she became known as the true master of coin, for her husband was said to be a good and noble lord, but one without great faculty for numbers. Due to this, she swiftly grew in influence, and was trusted by King Daemon in all things as she laboured on his behalf and on that of the realm. Her third marriage came after 209 AC, and was one of her own choice, after she fell in love Sir Michael Manwardine, a Dornishman who had attended Princess Mara at her court. Manwardine, in early life, studied at the Citadel, and was a cultured man of great wit and learning, who had become a trusted servant of King Daemon. He was sent to Braavos to negotiate with the Iron Bank on several occasions, and there is a record of a correspondence between him and the keyholders of the Iron Bank, sealed with his seal and signed with his name, but apparently in the hand of Elaena. Elaena married Sir Michael, apparently with Daemon's blessing, not long after her second husband had died. Elaena said in her later years that it wasn't his intelligence that made her love Sir Manwardine, but his love of music. He was known to play the harp for her, and when he died, Elaena commanded that his effigy be carved holding a harp, and not the sword and spurs of knighthood, as is most common